What's up, Internet? Kevin here with TLD, bringing you my full review of Assassin's Creed Revelations for the Xbox 360, which is also available on the PS3 and soon the PC. Now, the game relies on the same core dynamic that we've seen since Assassin's Creed 2, although just like Brotherhood, it has added a couple new features to help the experience still feel fresh and new, and worth purchasing for full price outside of just continuing the storyline. The game concludes the mid-series trilogy of Ezio's adventures, as well as acting as an important stepping stone towards the events of what will most likely be the final entry of this trilogy. Not only does the game finish Ezio's storyline, but it also gives us extra storyline details for Altair, the character from the first Assassin's Creed, and gives us some important backstory and insight into the character of Desmond, who is the series' main protagonist. Players will play through a majority of the game as Ezio with an experience very similar to Brotherhood, but will also have access to a couple special flashback chapters where they play as Altair, as well as playing through a few special first-person puzzle segments that deal with Desmond's mental stability. Now, Ezio's storyline revolves around two intertwined events: his search for a number of Masyaf keys left behind by Altair, each of which reveals segments of his life, as well as a political struggle taking place in Constantinople thanks to Templar involvement. For the most part, the main storyline plays identical to that of Brotherhood, but it adds a few new interesting features. First off, Ezio now has access to a hook blade, which opens up a few more options, including the ability to climb faster, use zip lines, and even leap over enemies' backs. In addition to that, the game now has a special crafting system that allows you to make a number of different bombs, both utility and offensive. As players play the game, they'll be able to find a number of different ingredients, which can be used to make bombs that explode, turn into caltrops, or just cover people in blood to cause a distraction. A lot of the game's missions place a very large emphasis on having players make use of these bombs, either to distract guards, or to use as traps to take them out indirectly. Now, one of the more interesting new additions of the game that, to be honest, felt a little out of place for me, is that there's now a tower defense minigame that takes place. Basically, whenever Ezio becomes notorious enough, the Templar will attack one of your assassin dens, and then you play this little tower defense game to protect it. It's entirely possible to actually play through the entire game with only doing this once, which is the required tutorial one. After that, you can just play it safe most of the game and never have to deal with it again. It's honestly a little out of place, a little awkward, and just didn't really seem to fit with the rest of the game's aesthetic. Now, another thing that's been changed a little bit too is that once again the game does feature special collectible items, kind of like how they had feathers or flags in the last game. This time there are Animus Fragments that are spread out throughout the entire game. Now, one important difference this time though is that instead of these collectibles just unlocking little side things, they actually play an important part in unlocking special Desmond chapters, which add a lot of interesting backstory to Desmond's life and insights into his personality. The good news is that while there are 100 of these fragments spread out throughout the whole game, you only need 30 of them to complete the side missions. So players are encouraged to find these fragments early on and just adventure a little bit just to be able to play through these extra side bits. Outside of these additions, the game employs a lot of the same mechanics we saw back in Brotherhood, including renovating shops to make income, recruiting and training assassins to aid you in combat, and bribing heralds or killing witnesses to reduce your notoriety. It's a decent balance of a familiar formula to keep fans comfortable, while still adding enough new options to keep our interest. Now, alongside the single-player experience, Revelations brings back the multiplayer that was introduced in Brotherhood, with a number of new characters to play as and new game modes to compete in. Alongside the original Wanted mode, the game also adds a Team Capture the Flag, a treasure hunting mode, and a new form of deathmatch similar to Wanted, but it removes the compass and makes it a much smaller battlefield, forcing players to hunt down unique-looking enemies rather than just having to pick out which one might be an opposing player. These new modes help to give a lot more variety to the multiplayer aspect, and like I said last year in my review of Brotherhood, I'm really quite impressed with how fun this assassination gameplay can be, and it's a great alternative to more conventional multiplayer online games. As players level up in this multiplayer mode, not only do they unlock new appearance options and abilities to use in matches, it also unlocks a couple of special files and videos related to the Templar. It's a really interesting way of adding a more story-driven aspect to the multiplayer, and fans of the main series will want to actually level up as much as they can so they can unlock all these interesting backstory and insights to one of the major antagonist organizations in the series. Overall, Assassin's Creed Revelations is another solid entry into the series, and while its additions are relatively few, they do add enough options to keep it from feeling too stale. Well worth picking up here if you're a fan, and if you're not yet, it's further proof that the series is well worth getting interested in, even if you have to skip or deal with the rather repetitive first entry. That's our review of Assassin's Creed Revelations. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, make sure to check out our latest two vids. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and if you want to be extra awesome, make sure to hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.